I found the old TV at a junk shop, buried under a pile of forgotten electronics. The owner practically gave it away, muttering something about bad signals. When I got home, I plugged it in, expecting static. Instead, a news broadcast flickered to life, showing a car crash on Fifth Avenue. I switched channels, but it was the only thing playing. Odd, considering no local stations aired at that hour. The next morning, I nearly dropped my coffee when I saw the exact same crash on the news, same street. Same car, same victims. At first, I thought it was a bizarre coincidence. But that night, the TV turned on by itself, showing something even worse. It displayed a house fire. The address was familiar, too familiar. It was my neighbor's place. I ran outside, heart pounding. The street was quiet, untouched by flames. Maybe I was losing my mind, but at 3:42 a.m., I woke to the smell of smoke. Flames devoured my neighbor's house exactly as the TV had shown. Panic gripped me. This wasn't normal. The TV wasn't showing the past. It was showing the future. The next night, I forced myself to watch. The screen flickered before settling on a chilling scene: my own front door, slightly ajar. A shadow moved just beyond the threshold. Its form wrong, too tall, too thin. I was still sitting on my couch. I checked my door. Locked. Secure. But when I turned back, the TV now showed my living room. The angle was off, as if the camera was inside the house. And behind me, in the dim light, something shifted. I spun around, but the room was empty. The only sound was the TV's quiet hum, the static buzzing louder than before. I reached to turn it off, but a new image flashed on the screen: my own face, eyes wide in terror. A hand, not mine, rested on my shoulder in the reflection. The screen cut to black. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I covered the TV with a sheet, hoping that would be enough. It wasn't. At 2 a.m., the TV switched on beneath the fabric, casting eerie shadows across the room. This time, it showed my bedroom. My bed. Me. Asleep. I grabbed my phone and took a picture of the screen. But when I checked my gallery, the image wasn't there. Instead, a video played. The camera moved toward my sleeping body, the footage growing grainy. Then, the sound of breathing, deep, ragged, coming from inside the screen. The video ended abruptly. The next night, I left the house, checking into a motel. I needed to escape whatever was happening. At exactly midnight, my phone vibrated. A live stream notification. I clicked on it, my heart hammering. It was my motel room. The camera panned slowly toward the closet. Something was in there. The door creaked open, inch by inch. I bolted from the room, leaving everything behind. When I returned home, the TV was waiting for me, screen glowing softly. I should have destroyed it, but I needed to know, needed to see. The screen crackled and revealed something new: my own funeral. People in black, tears in their eyes. My coffin, half closed. And worst of all, my reflection, grinning in the glass. Then, the camera panned to the back of the room, where a figure stood, watching. I couldn't make out its face, but I knew it was waiting. A date flashed on the screen. Tomorrow. I screamed and unplugged the TV, but the image remained, frozen in place. My fate was sealed. I smashed the screen with a chair, glass exploding across the floor. But as I stood there, panting, my phone buzzed again. A new notification: live stream starting soon. The thumbnail? My house. My front door. A dark shape standing just outside. I'm writing this now because I don't know what else to do. If you're reading this, check your screens. Your TV, your phone, anything with a camera. If you see something, don't watch. Comment below if your screen has ever turned on by itself. And if you hear static tonight, don't look. I awoke to a deafening silence in my room, a silence that felt like the calm before an unimaginable storm. The TV, which I had smashed moments ago, now glowed with a cold, unnatural light. The screen burst to life, displaying a live feed of a crumbling cityscape drenched in eerie red hues. Buildings collapsed as if in slow motion, and the chaos seemed eerily directed at my neighborhood. A text overlay scrolled across the screen in bold, crimson letters. "Your world is next." I felt a chill crawl up my spine as if the message was aimed directly at me. The live feed shifted to an image of my own front door unlocked and shrouded in an ominous fog. I could swear I saw a pair of eyes staring out from the darkness. A blood-curdling whisper echoed through the room. "You cannot escape what is coming." I clutched my chest, realizing the horror was no longer confined to the TV it was in my life. The broadcast morphed into a series of rapid, horrifying scenes. Familiar streets blanketed in unnatural darkness, and faceless figures roaming like lost souls. I recognized the terror on the faces of strangers on my screen. They were reflections of my own worst nightmares. Suddenly, a live timer appeared on the screen, counting down the minutes, seconds. My fate was sealed before my eyes. I couldn't tear my gaze away as the digits dwindled relentlessly. The screen then split into multiple panels, each displaying a different catastrophe. Raging fires consuming homes, frozen lakes shattering, and a mirror image of my own terrified face. It was as if my future was being dissected for all to see. A deep, resonant voice boomed from the speakers. "You are not alone. We are coming." The sound reverberated through the room, shaking me to my core. Images of mass panic flashed on the screen, crowds fleeing, cars abandoned on empty highways, and a stark reminder that chaos was just a breath away. I felt as if the very air around me was thickening with despair. A new sequence revealed horrifying symbols etched into crumbling walls, symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. I wondered if these marks were left by others who had witnessed this same terror. The broadcast then showed a shadowy figure, standing alone in a field under a stormy sky. Its eyes burned with an unnatural light as it raised a hand in a silent, accusatory gesture. My heart pounded as the figure began to speak in a language I couldn't understand. The voice was both ancient and terrifying, a warning that time was running out. Without warning, the live feed cut to a close-up of my own face, distorted by anguish and fear. I saw tears streaming down cheeks that weren't mine, and I felt the weight of every regret I'd ever held. A series of fast cuts showed glimpses of future disasters. A nuclear explosion over a city I once called home, and a faceless crowd chanting my name. The vision was too vivid to be mere imagination. Then, the screen filled with static. In the crackling noise, I heard fragmented words, pleas for salvation, curses, and warnings that my destiny was intertwined with this horror. The static resolved into a single, gut-wrenching image. A door, ancient and foreboding, set against a backdrop of swirling darkness. The door seemed to beckon me closer. I felt an irresistible pull, as if the door was calling to a part of me I had long tried to forget. My breath hitched, and I reached out as if to touch its cold surface. The broadcast zoomed in on the door, revealing intricate carvings of symbols and faces in torment. It was as though the door held the secrets of every lost soul. A message scrolled beneath the image: step through, or forever remain in shadow. My heart raced. I had to know what lay beyond. As I watched, the door slowly creaked open on its own, revealing a corridor lit by an otherworldly glow. The corridor stretched into darkness, promising both revelation and ruin. I felt my pulse quicken, and a sense of dread flooded over me. The TV's voice returned, now soft and intimate. Your destiny awaits beyond the threshold. The scene shifted again, this time to a montage of horrifying futures. A world overrun by darkness, people trapped in endless despair, and the mirror image of my life unraveling in slow motion. In one horrifying glimpse, I saw my own reflection, twisted and malevolent, reaching out from a shattered mirror. The sight was so jarring it felt like a physical blow. A final countdown began on the screen, 10 seconds, each one echoing like a death knell. I felt as if time itself were bleeding away, leaving me with nothing but dread. The digits ticked down, 10, 9, 8. My heartbeat matched the rhythm, each second more unbearable than the last. I could do nothing but watch. As the timer hit 5, the broadcast showed an image of my own home, engulfed in flames and consumed by darkness. It was a vision so raw, so terrifying, that I could scarcely breathe. At 4, the voice spoke directly to me. You have no escape. The command was both a threat and an invitation, a promise of doom. At 3, the screen flashed a series of personal horrors, secrets I had buried deep, mistakes that had defined me, and faces of those I had lost. Each image cut deeper than the last. With 2 seconds remaining, the TV displayed a final, agonizing scene. A door opening to reveal an endless void filled with howling shadows. The sight was almost too much to bear. Then, as the countdown reached 0, the screen erupted in a blinding white light, followed by a deafening silence. My mind reeled in terror and confusion, as if every hope had been extinguished in an instant. In that moment of utter darkness, I felt a presence, something ancient and relentless, crawl over my skin. It whispered in a voice that belonged to my very soul, "This is your fate." I staggered backward, the room twisting and warping as if reality itself were breaking. The TV's glow faded, leaving me in a void of uncertainty and despair. Every nerve in my body screamed for escape, yet I was paralyzed by the weight of impending doom. I could sense that the terror wasn't confined to the screen, it had seeped into every corner of my life. In that suffocating silence, the final message appeared on the TV, written in bold, terrifying letters. Your life, as you know it, is over. I trembled as I realized the horror was not just a broadcast, it was a prophecy unfolding before my eyes. The world outside my window had darkened, and every shadow seemed to whisper my name. I began to receive frantic calls and messages from friends who described similar nightmares and unexplainable occurrences. Their voices were filled with terror, as if a dark curse had spread globally. It was then I understood the TV wasn't just predicting disasters, it was orchestrating them. The visions were warnings, not of what might happen, but what was inevitable. I felt an unshakable terror settle in my bones. Every clock in my house ticked backwards, and my reflection in every window seemed to change, showing horrors I could never have imagined. A cold wind swept through my room as the TV flickered back on, displaying a live feed of a distant city crumbling under an apocalyptic sky. I knew then that I wasn't the only one cursed by this fate. The broadcast now showed faces of strangers in despair, eyes wide with terror, as if the very soul of humanity was being drained away. I felt the chill of their fear, as if it were my own. A message flashed across the screen. Doubt is the enemy. Embrace your destiny. The words struck me like a thunderbolt, shattering any remnants of hope I had left. Desperation took hold. I grabbed my phone and frantically typed a plea for help, sharing every terrifying detail. But the replies were filled with static and cryptic symbols that only deepened my dread. The voices in the broadcast grew louder, intertwining with the sound of my pounding heart. They weren't just a distant threat, they were here, invading my very mind. In a final, gut-wrenching montage, the TV showed images of my own life disintegrating. Relationships crumbling, dreams fading, and every cherished moment turning to ash. I saw myself standing alone in a barren landscape, surrounded by the ghosts of my past. The message was clear: you are forsaken. A surge of terror overwhelmed me as I realized the broadcast was not confined to my home. Everywhere I looked, screens and mirrors reflected the same nightmarish visions, a world on the brink of collapse. Every electronic device in my vicinity crackled with the same message, a chorus of impending doom. It was as if the entire universe had synchronized in its final, dreadful heartbeat. I could no longer distinguish between reality and the horrific images on the screen. The boundaries had blurred, and every sound became a harbinger of terror. In the midst of this chaos, a final instruction scrolled across the screen: share your fear. Let the world know. I hesitated, then typed out my experience, pouring my terror into every word. My fingers shook as I hit send, and the message rippled across the internet like wildfire. Strangers began to comment, their messages echoing my own dread and despair. They spoke of similar experiences, of eerie visions and dark omens appearing on their screens. Their words only deepened my fear the curse was spreading, infecting lives with its malevolence. I felt isolated, yet oddly connected to these strangers in our shared horror. A new notification appeared on my phone. A live stream was starting, featuring a montage of all our stories. The screen flashed a chilling invitation. You are not alone in this nightmare. Tears streamed down my face as I watched the shared terror unfold on screen. Each story was a testament to a world falling apart, a future drenched in darkness. The final scene on the live stream was a countdown, but not the one from before. This was global. It read, 30 seconds, and it was ticking away relentlessly. As the countdown neared 0, every screen in my home flared to life, broadcasting the same apocalyptic vision. I realized then that the horror was not contained, it was coming for all of us. The voice from the TV now spoke directly to me, its tone both intimate and monstrous. Embrace your terror, or be consumed by it. I felt as if my heart was being squeezed by invisible hands, and the darkness in my room deepened to a suffocating void. In that moment of pure dread, I knew I had two choices: to surrender to the inevitability or to fight against it with every fiber of my being. I looked directly at the camera, as if reaching out to you, the viewer, through the screen. If you feel this terror, if your life is already touched by it, comment below. I pleaded. Share your story, your fear. We must stand together against this creeping darkness, I urged, my voice trembling with raw emotion. The countdown reached 0, and the screen erupted in a burst of blinding light, leaving the room eerily silent once more. For a moment, I thought it was the end, but as the light dimmed, I realized this was only a new beginning. Remember, every shadow, every whisper, might be a harbinger of your own fate. The terror is real. Your life, your future, it's all at risk. If you're still watching, know that you are not alone. Let the comments flow. Share your fears. And subscribe for more stories that may one day save your life. Click the playlist now to journey deeper into the abyss, before the darkness consumes us all.